Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network. Today we're looking at something pretty alarming. Russia's secret military support to China might actually be laying the groundwork for a future Taiwan invasion. We've got leaked documents suggesting a troubling alliance is shaping up, so we're going to explore these reports, this intelligence about escalating military cooperation focused on Taiwan. But, and this is crucial, we're immediately going to weigh that against some really strong analysis, arguing that a large-scale invasion is, frankly, almost impossible due to economic and geographic factors. It's a real clash of possibilities.
Exactly. And that's the challenge for you listening right now. How do you reconcile these opposing signals? On one side, you have intelligence hinting at serious military prep. On the other, respected defense reports and think tanks like the Stimson Center point to these huge, almost immovable obstacles. So our goal here is to synthesize the intelligence about this Moscow-Beijing link with the very real economic and physical hurdles facing the PRC. We want to give you the context you need to understand the true balance of power in the Indo-Pacific.
Okay, let's start with the intelligence that really kicked off this specific discussion. These leaked Russian documents that RUSI, the UK think tank, analyzed. What exactly did they find? What makes them so specific?
Well, the significance isn't just that there's support, but the kind of support it seems to be. The source is around 800 pages of contracts, equipment lists, apparently leaked by this hacktivist group, Black Moon. RUSI analysts think they point towards active preparation. And what's really striking is that the aid seems specifically tailored for operations that look a lot like a potential Taiwan scenario.
So we're not just talking generic stuff like engines or radars. This is more specific.
That's the key point. It appears to be direct support for a complex, potentially amphibious or airborne operation. The leaks reportedly detail things like meetings, payment schedules, delivery times for high-altitude parachute systems.
Parachute systems that suggest airborne troops,
Yeah.
special forces.
It points that way, yes. Preparing for dropping troops behind lines, maybe. And they also mention transfers of amphibious assault vehicles. So if these documents are genuine, this isn't just strategic alignment anymore. It starts to look like, well, tacit Russian backing for kinetic action against Taiwan.
That does paint a more aggressive picture. Okay, so we have credible sources suggesting Russian help for a pretty complex, airborne capable operation. But how does that square with the Stimson Center's view? They seem convinced the economic and political risks make an invasion highly unlikely.
And that's the core tension you need to grasp. For the PRC, the biggest deterrent might not even be external military force, but internal stability. An invasion directly clashes with the CCP's core promise of economic prosperity. Think about the resources needed for something like this. Diverting them would likely cause huge public dissent, potentially undermining the party's legitimacy far more than any foreign power could.
So they essentially can't afford the internal fallout, politically or financially. Is there actual data linking economic worries to, say, less appetite for conflict over Taiwan?
Yes, there is. Some surveys show a pretty direct link. When Chinese people express more concern about the economic cost of war, they tend to be more cautious, maybe more pacifist is the word used, regarding unification. And internally, dissent is rising. The China Dissent Monitor noted a 27% jump in dissent events from 2023 to 2024. And crucially, this dissent is often among workers, property owners, the economic core. That makes the party extremely sensitive to anything rocking the boat.
Okay, so domestic stability is fragile. What about the external economic hits? Sanctions, embargoes?
Oh, they'd be massive. You're talking about potentially crippling sanctions, especially targeting the high-tech sectors Beijing is banking on for future growth.
Right.
But there's another vulnerability, maybe less obvious, food security.
Food, how so?
Well, China relies heavily on imports for staple crops. Soybeans are a big one, mostly from places like Brazil. A major conflict in the region, particularly a maritime one, would almost certainly disrupt those supply lines. Imagine a food price shock hitting China that erodes public support very quickly.
It sounds like their own long-standing policies kind of acknowledge this risk then.
They do. If you look at the PRC's anti-secession law, it clearly states a preference for using all measures short of actual war to achieve unification. Military force is presented as the option only if peaceful means are completely exhausted. The immense economic cost makes reaching that point of exhaustion, well, very unlikely.
All right, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say Beijing decides to absorb the economic pain, the dissent. What about the physical act of invasion? People say it's one of the hardest military operations imaginable. Why is the geography itself such a powerful deterrent?
It truly is a logistical nightmare. First off, you've got the Strait. At its narrowest, it's still about 80 miles of open, often rough water, moving a large mechanized force across that requires an enormous fleet. We're talking something on the scale of D-Day, maybe 4,000 to 7,000 vessels, or what was planned for Operation Causeway in World War II.
An armada that big. Impossible to hide, surely.
Virtually impossible. To assemble it, move it, protect it from attack. It's a huge challenge. And that's just getting across. Then you hit the island itself.
And the island doesn't just welcome you with open arms terrain-wise.
Not at all. That's the second layer. You've got the central mountain range dominating the interior, covering nearly 60% of the island. That makes moving large forces inland incredibly difficult, channeling them into predictable paths. But here's a really critical point. The suitable landing beaches are actually quite limited, and the areas behind many of them. Either dense cities, which are brutal for attackers, or rice paddies.
Ah, the famous rice paddies. That soft mud layer, what is it, 20, 30 centimeters deep? Sounds minor, but it's not.
It's an absolute killer for armored vehicles. That layer, maybe only 10, 12 inches deep, is enough to instantly bog down tanks, troop carriers, anything heavy trying to maneuver off limited hard surfaces. They become sitting ducks for artillery, drones, missiles, a real anti-tank trap.
And even the roads aren't necessarily helpful for an attacker.
No, they can become death traps too. Many of Taiwan's main highways are elevated. A defender just needs to knock out a few key sections, bridges, or overpasses to create massive bottlenecks. Think about Operation Market Garden and WWII, Hell's Highway. A single blocked road can halt an entire advance. It's precisely these kinds of challenges that led U.S. military planners back in World War II, guys who knew amphibious landings better than anyone, to strongly advise against Operation Causeway, the planned invasion of Taiwan, or Formosa as it was known then. The geography was just too daunting.
Okay, so the PRC faces huge economic risks, political risk, and this incredibly challenging geography. How is Taiwan responding? What's their strategy knowing all this?
Right, Taiwan isn't just sitting passively. Their approach, outlined in their National Defense Report from 2023, is basically resolute defense and multi-domain deterrence. The core idea is leveraging asymmetric advantages, making the cost of any invasion attempt unacceptably high for Beijing.
Asymmetric, so they're learning from conflicts like Ukraine, using smaller, smarter mobile systems against a larger, perhaps less agile potential foe.
Exactly, that's a key theme. They're shifting focus towards things like long-range precision strike, mobile platforms, unmanned systems, AI integration, things that are harder to target and can inflict disproportionate damage.
Can you give some examples? What are the different branches doing?
Sure. The Army, the ROCA, is investing heavily in long-range precision firepower. Think mobile rocket launcher systems that can hit enemy forces, ships, or key targets before they even make landfall, or while they're concentrating.
And the Navy, putting missiles on trucks, basically.
That's a good way to put it. The Navy, the ROCN, is setting up shore-based mobile anti-ship missile batteries, taking powerful missiles like the Harpoon off vulnerable ships and making them mobile, harder to find on land. They're also improving their mine-laying capabilities, another classic asymmetric tool against an amphibious force. And importantly, Taiwan is developing its own strike capabilities, like the Yunfeng missile, reportedly capable of hitting targets up to 2,000 kilometers away. That holds potential staging areas or support bases on the mainland at risk.
That's a significant deterrent capability. What about those constant gray zone tactics Taiwan faces? The harassment that falls short of war?
They're actively working on countering those too. These gray zone actions are designed to wear Taiwan down, things like using Coast Guard or maritime militia vessels disguised as fishing boats, flying military aircraft or drones close to Taiwan's airspace constantly, even using weather balloons for spying, described as having a fake civilian application with a real spy intent.
And beyond the military hardware, they're preparing society itself.
Yes, that's the all-out defense concept. Building societal resilience is crucial. They brought back the one-year mandatory military service term starting in 2024, increasing the trained manpower pool. Training itself is being revised to be more realistic, focusing on actual combat skills, handling stress, combat casualty care, TC3. And they even published an all-out defense adaptation handbook last year to guide civilians on what to do in an emergency, from evacuation to identifying friend or foe. The idea is to make the entire island resist, maximizing the cost for any attacker.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together. The Russian aid suggesting preparation, but these massive economic, political, and geographic barriers, plus Taiwan's own asymmetric strategy? What's the final picture?
Well, if you connect those dots, it seems the most probable flashpoint isn't necessarily a full-scale D-Day style invasion. It might be more about sustained lower-level coercion. Think blockades, intensified gray zone activities, cyber attacks,
Hmm.
aiming for political goals without triggering that global economic meltdown an actual invasion likely would.
So for you, the listener, what's the bottom line here? The PRC is modernizing its military, potentially with some Russian help for specific scenarios, to project power and apply pressure. No doubt about that. But the sheer scale of the physical challenge, crossing the strait, fighting through mountains, getting bogged down in mud, remains immense. So much so that many analysts suspect the primary use of the invasion threat isn't actual conquest, but maybe justification. A way to keep defense spending high in Washington and Taipei, focused on that high-end threat. And here's something to think about. We know the PRC builds sophisticated training facilities. Some are designed to look exactly like parts of central Taipei. Given everything we've discussed about the geographic nightmares, how do you weigh that? The physical impossibility versus the clear psychological and political message of practicing an urban assault on Taiwan's capital. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this concise look at these really competing narratives around the Taiwan Strait.
Yes, we really appreciate you tuning in and engaging with this complex topic.
If you found this valuable, we'd appreciate it if you could. Like, share, and subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network. It helps others find this analysis.
And please do share your thoughts or questions in the comment section below. We do try to read them.
You can also join the conversation on our social media channels. All the links you need are right there in the description.